are we, CCLA difference, what? Difference makers.
Oh, all right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Camey Kuo, and if you are here for the Design Thinking and Multilingual Learners session, then you are in the right room. I can't see the folks online, but I wanted to say hello to the folks online. This session will be super interactive. You'll be with partners. There will be lots of discussions, so get ready to, jump into it. So let me make this big. Okay. So if you need access to the slides, there's a QR code. I can also add you to the slide deck if needed. And if there are any questions that pop up online, if you could let me know, that would be great. So a couple of things. So I am really excited about this work because I've worked with multilingual learners for the last almost 20 years or so. I used to be a classroom teacher. I've taught in New York, in LA, middle school, high school, community college, all the different things. So I'm very much a practitioner at heart, even though I've been wearing the research hat for about 10 years now. And so I came across this design thinking approach probably like 5 or 6 years ago, and I found it to be really great in understanding the challenges that we are trying to solve in classrooms at the site level as well as at the district level. And so it is, I would say, design thinking is an approach to problem solving as well as really being intentional about focusing on the humans, like the humans that are involved in the system, right? Like our kids, our teachers, our administrators. So I will talk more about that in a bit. Let's see. Okay. If I can get my slides to move. Great question. Or I don't think the clicker's connected to my thing though. Sorry, we're having some technical challenges. It always happens though. Like even on Zoom. Sometimes you have to click on the screen. Yeah. I can't even find my mouse. This is so embarrassing, guys. Yeah. There it is. There. Oh, okay. No, there, your mouse. Click your mouse. There you go. It is, it's Friday morning. I try the escape button, it's not working. I love this collaborative problem solving. It's so weird. This usually doesn't happen. So I think it's this way. You know what? Let's unplug. Let's unplug.
And then let's go. Okay, plug it back in, please.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Awesome. Yes. Thank you so much. Yay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Let's reset a little bit. So today's session is broken up into two parts. The first part, we will be engaging in some design thinking activities in partners. So you'll become more familiar with the design thinking process, the different steps. And then the second part, we'll move into exploring how design thinking has been used at different levels of districts. So how have teachers used it in the classroom with their students? How have site administrators used this process to problem solve for teachers? As well as how have district admin used it to solve some issues around systems for multilingual learners. So we'll get to that in part two. And let's see. So what is design thinking? Right? I know that you probably, how many people have heard of design thinking? Okay. Yeah, so most of you. And uh, just out of curiosity, where have you heard it from or in what context? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cool. Others, yeah. Great. Awesome. Yes. In the classroom. Cool. Very cool. Yes. Yes. Awesome. Great. Yes. Beautiful. Very cool. Very cool. Yes. Stacey. I love it. That's great. Yes, I think there are very many different versions of it. There's no like right approach. The way that we define design thinking is it's a human-centered, I'm going to read this definition, human-centered approach to problem solving with a drive towards innovation. And for us, there is a lot of liberatory practices that are part of it, being really mindful of equity. So a real world example of design thinking that most of you probably have heard of is a couple of years ago, maybe like 5 or 6 now, there was a soccer team in Thailand that got stuck in a cave and a monsoon came in. And so folks, experts, dive experts, geologists, they were all trying to figure out how do we get a team of boys who have never been, scuba dived, have maybe or maybe not know how to swim out of this cave underwater, right? So they talk to, they problem solve, they talk to the students, they talk to the kids, they talk to divers, they talk to, a lot of different experts, and they were able to come up with a solution that worked for those kids and the coach, and everybody got out safely and alive. So that's one example of design thinking. And to bring it to education and really thinking about why we would use this in education, I mentioned earlier that it is an approach, right? It doesn't provide, design thinking doesn't provide one solution. It allows you to use the process to understand the problem, to talk to the users, to understand, to build empathy, and to prototype and try different solutions until you get to one that works for your particular students, your particular teachers, your context. So this is why we have been using it in education. So one of the I've worked on a couple of different partnerships that focus on multilingual learners. And the current one that we are finishing up is one with the Department of Education, the Multilingual Services Division. We have partnered with 6 districts across the state to focus on the needs of long-term English learners. So really thinking specifically about what their experience is like in schools, what types of programs, what types of classes, instruction they're receiving, what types of challenges that they face. So asking them, what is going on? What are some things that we could do to help you be more successful in different, different definitions of that word? So we have been working with these folks for about a year and a half. We're coming up on our last meeting actually next week. And I think for a lot of the district, for a lot of the participants, it's a reminder to go back to students and to reconnect with students and to build, not to tear things down, but to build on what exists and tweak what exists. So I mean, I love using design thinking, and I think it's a great method. And so really helping folks understand how to apply it to their systems has been a great experience. So I will also talk about a different collaboration in part 2, and you'll get to explore a resource that talks about the different levels. All right, so we are going to jump into engaging with the design thinking activities. And we'll spend about 30 minutes going through each of these steps: empathize, define, brainstorm, prototype, and iterate. It looks linear, but it is not always linear. And it's okay to jump back and forth on the different steps. And we actually encourage it. There's a model that we like to use as we're doing design thinking, which is fail forward, right? You're trying prototypes, and yeah, it may not have worked, but you've learned something and you can move forward and build on that. So, all right. So we're not going to do anything in terms of design thinking in education just yet. I want you to problem solve for a partner, and we want to redesign your morning experience. So we're going to do some individual work first before you will be paired. You will be partnered up to collect some data. So if you have something to, you can write some notes down on your phone, or you can jot something on a piece of paper. There's some Post-its. If you guys want some Post-its, we'll pass these around just to help some note taking. So I want you to imagine an ideal morning. Woo. There. You guys wanna, oh, great. Okay, so imagine an ideal morning. Okay, jot down your ideas of what that entails. What does that feel like? What are some components of an ideal morning? You take a couple minutes to write on a piece of paper, or you can jot down some notes. Your own, yes, for yourself. What is, yes, we're not thinking about students or schools right now. This is for yourself, okay? Lovely morning, ideal morning. How do you feel, on an ideal morning? For me, it's like, what are you eating? What do you like? What types of beverages do you have? Where are you? Right, ideal morning. I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to jot some notes down. Really think of outside the box. About a minute to finish up your notes. Draw some, doesn't have to be full sentences, could be some bullet points, draw a picture. Ideal morning. Okay. Go ahead and finish up that last thought, that last idea. And you're going to pivot and think about, what is your worst morning experience? How do you feel? What is going on when you have a really crappy morning? What is happening, right? What is not going well? Where are you? Spend about 2 minutes writing down your worst morning experiences, the ones you hope to avoid. One more minute. Okay. Go ahead and finish that last thought, that last idea of what a not great morning feels like. So we are going to jump into the first step of empathizing. And what you're going to do is you're going to find a partner that has, for the folks that are in the room, that is wearing the same color shoes, and hopefully somebody that you don't know, maybe somebody new you want to hang out with. Go ahead and get up now and find a partner. And for the folks that are online, we're going to put, in a second, we'll put you in breakout rooms with a partner after I provide the directions. Close enough. Close enough. So go ahead and find a place to sit with your partner. You'll be spending about 10 minutes with them. Anywhere is fine. So you'll have 5 minutes each to interview each other about your morning experience. So find out from your partner, because what you're going to do is you're going to redesign your partner's morning to help make it a better experience. So what you want to do is to collect some data from them about what makes it a good morning, what doesn't make it a good morning, when are they happy, when do they not feel so great. So take some notes when your partner is sharing, so that you can use that to move into the next stage of design thinking that we'll go through. So you'll have 10 minutes total, 5 minutes each. I'll call out the 5 minute switch mark. These are some sample interview questions that you can ask. You are more than welcome to use your own, especially if you hear something really interesting. Ask them like, "Oh, what do you mean by that? Like, can you tell me more?" Right? So you want to get a sense of what is a good morning for your partner. What is not such a good morning? What are the different components? And then once you have all that information, we're going to use that to move on to the next stage of design thinking. So I'm going to pause here. Questions before we get started and open the breakout rooms? Any questions from online folks? Okay. Cool. Well, I'm going to put 5 minutes or 10 minutes on the clock and let's get started. All right, go for it. One more minute for the first partner. Okay, go ahead and finish. Partner one, go ahead and finish some of your last thoughts, and then we'll switch to the other partner. One more minute to finish up. Oh, they're basically dead. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If you could bring them back. Thank you. Okay, go ahead and finish up that last thought, the last idea that you're sharing, the last feeling. So now that you have some data from your partner, you've learned all about their good mornings, not so great mornings, really crappy mornings. We are going to move to, we're going to use all of the data that you collected to move into the define stage of as design thinking. So we're going to do some individual work. You can stay there. You can go back to your seat, whatever works best. So I want you to look at your notes and highlight experiences that seem most central to your partner's positive and negative morning experiences. So take a look, identify a couple of your partner's morning needs, whether they are, I'll just leave it at that. We're not going to judge the needs. We're just going to identify a few of your partner's morning needs. What how do they need to feel, or what are the things they need to have in the morning? What's important to them? And I'll give you a few minutes to do that.
Next one. Yeah, it's at 10:15.
About 30 seconds to identify a few of your partner's morning needs. Remember, there's no right or wrong answer. We're using our data to highlight a couple of needs, and you'll get a chance to check in with your partner whether or not they are the right ones. Okay. So now that you have a few of your partner's morning needs, we are going to write a need statement using one of those needs. So you can write a few. I'd like to draft a number and then pick my favorite. I'll give you a couple of minutes to write a statement that captures your partner's morning needs. So good scaffolding for multilingual learners is sentence starters, right? So your partner needs a way to blank. So what do they need? A phrase that starts with a verb because of blank. So I'm going to give you an example, which is Annie needs a way to stay centered, calm in the morning because she gets stressed out by all the things she has to do during the day. So that is one need statement. You can write a few based on your partner's needs, but go ahead and try this out because this helps concentrate the need into like one statement so that you can prototype from it. So I'll go back to this. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to write a need statement that captures what your partner needs in the morning. Okay. Go ahead and finish up that last needs statement. There are a lot of different ways to describe the need, so don't worry about, you know, if it's right or wrong. So now that we have a need statement, that we have a focus, we are going to move into the brainstorming stage of design thinking. And what we're going to do is, based on the need statement, we are going to take 2 minutes. So when I say go, I'll set the timer for 2 minutes, and you're going to write down as many ideas as you can to address your partner's need statement. So we're brainstorming potential solutions, right? Yes, Stacy. No. I want you to be creative. I want you to feel like cost doesn't matter. Because when we don't think of barriers, we can come up with ideas that aren't typically, thought of. And there are ways to adjust those so that makes sense. But I think we need sometimes to give ourselves permission to use that creative space. So, write as many ideas as possible. There are more stickies if you need it, or scratch paper. Don't judge the ideas. Don't stop to hesitate. Like, oh, is this good? Can I really? No. Just keep writing. Don't stop writing until the time is up. Use your creativity and imagination. Come up with as many as you can in 2 minutes. So when I say go, we'll go 2 minutes, and then we will move to the next step. Okay, ready? Go. One more minute. Good. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Go ahead and stop writing. Now you have all these ideas that you've brainstormed. We are going to move into prototyping. I know we're moving real fast, and usually we use not this quick, but I wanted you guys to get a sense of what each stage feels like, So using all of the ideas that you've just brainstormed, you're going to create a prototype. So a prototype is a model, an enactment, small, full-size representation. It could be on paper. You can physically make something. So they're meant to communicate your design. So looking at all your ideas, are there ones that you can combine into one prototype? Are there a couple of different ones that you're like, oh yeah, this would be great. This would really help, my partner with having a better morning. This is your chance to, sort of mold something from the ideas that you've come up with. I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to come up with a prototype or two from your brainstormed ideas. You can like draw something. I always love like a good interpretive, like dance type representation. Nobody's ever taken me up on it yet. Today could be the day. Uh, but it's you're creating a prototype to represent the design that's going to help your partner with their morning. So however that looks, it could be a description, which is totally fine, a drawing, a dance. You can make something from the sticky notes. I love that. So I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes to come up with something, and then you'll get a chance to share that design with your partner and get a little bit of feedback. So I'm gonna put 5 minutes on the clock. One more minute. Okay, go ahead and finish that last thought sentence for the prototype. And we are in the iterate stage of design thinking where you're going to share the prototype with your partner. You'll have a couple of minutes to do that, and then your partner will give you some feedback around the prototype. So you can get a sense of like, oh, like how did my partner feel about this prototype? Like what parts of it are great? What parts of it might need some tweaking? Are there other things I can add? Um, and then you'll switch. And then your partner will share their prototype with your prototype with you, and you'll give them some feedback too. So I'm going to put about 5 minutes, 6 minutes on the clock. I'll let you know when it's time to switch. I think we'll have to put the folks that are online back in the breakout rooms. So if we could put the folks online back, thank you, in the breakout rooms to share your prototype. Don't know what's going on, but and then we'll switch. So go ahead and get started with one of the partners sharing prototypes. Okay, go ahead and switch partners. Okay, go ahead and finish that last thought, the last idea, showing the last visual that you have. If we could bring the folks back into the main room and Zoom. Thank you. So as I was walking around, I heard words like spa and kettle and morning like tea, like very lovely sentiments. I also heard some, you know, ideas around pets, right? Cats and dogs and calm and nature. So I am so curious. I would love to hear some of your, like what you've experienced, what you've, what you take away from the design thinking. I know it was a very like fast and furious, like, through design thinking. Yeah, would love to, hear about your experience. Would love to hear about like the prototypes. Like what stood out for you? Microphone, yeah, just so the
Hi,
folks online can hear you.
Yeah. We were just talking. Yeah, I think it's on, right?
Yeah.
We were just talking about. I was sharing how I felt like this real, like, authentic sense of joy, like a felt joy sitting here, sketching this morning balcony for Debbie, a stranger.
Love it.
And like based on all the things that she said, it was, selfishly, I was getting all this rewarding feels from it, and that is such a cool part of the process.
I love it. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, there is a lot of joy when you are able to listen to somebody's need and being able to address it, right? And Debbie, did you feel like you were like heard and
Yes, he asked me more questions about my morning experience that I had not even thought of. So it was great. He was helping me expand
yeah,
on my idea. And then, it's so great seeing what he did. And I got to show him what I thought.
yeah.
Such a great process.
Oh, great. Other thoughts? What stood out? Reactions to the process?
I thought it was really like a lot of empathy too. The empathy part of it was like, because he has a young child, and my kids are older, but just hearing what he goes through in the morning, I'm like, yeah, I know, I remember those things. So it's the empathy part of it, that was really fun for us, and I got to know him. I feel like I know him pretty well now. It's like, good job, Marvin.
Yeah, right.
I won't forget your name.
Yeah. The empathy definitely for the folks that we've worked with is such a huge piece of the work, because sometimes you forget how, like when we think about our students, like what they're going through or the different challenges that teachers face, right? So having that conversation and really being intentional about trying to understand somebody else's experience is very enlightening. So I want to hear about the pets in the back.
I was just going to say that we have very similar needs in the morning, which also made me think about the kids while we were doing this, how when those certain kids don't have a breakfast in the morning, when we were saying, when I don't get my coffee and I don't get a little bit of something extra. And, she likes to cuddle with her cat. I like to play with my dog.
Yeah.
And I know from having brought my dog to school, kids still come up and say to me, when is the dog coming back?
Oh.
Right. And so those little things that we all kind of need, whether it's a cat, a dog, or just having your kid or talking to your friend or your mom, having that personal connection with someone or something else to help start your day out right, how important that is.
Yeah. It's those little moments of like connection, like feeling, I don't know if the word is like loved or seen, but that like softness when there's so much chaos going on is a really helpful reminder of like how to approach, like how you want to approach your day, right? Great. A moment of comfort. I like that. I love that description. Any other thoughts, comments, thoughts thoughts around like how you could use this process in your classroom or in your district or school to help multilingual learners? Like thoughts around that, ideas around that.
Well, to Samantha's point earlier was that if there's one person who feels that need, there are going to be others who have that same need. So in designing and thinking about design, like, and this also makes me think about universal design, right? So how do we help provide those small things? And it doesn't have to be huge, but small things for our students to choose from, to grab onto, to have those moments of comfort.
Yeah, I think it exactly. I was going to connect back to what you were saying about the moments of comfort and that personal connection. I think especially for our multilingual learners where they're coming into a very different space where they, you know, are still learning the language, right? Might be unfamiliar with like the social settings of school in the US. How do we help them feel more at ease? How do we make them, not make them, but like provide moments of comfort where they feel connected to the classroom, to the school, to the teacher, to staff too? What is that community? How do we build that type of community for them? So I know there are a couple of, oh, go ahead.
I was just also going to say one of the things that we both have a hard time with in the morning, especially when our morning hasn't gone great, is when as soon as you get to where you're going, there's an instant demand that's not related to you. It's someone else is coming at you and saying, do this, I need this. And so if we think about it from our students' perspective, whether they've had a nice morning or not at home, and they walk into the classroom, we're like, here's some work for you, get started.
Yeah.
Where's the stuff from yesterday? You didn't turn that in. Or, you know, let's go check you in, make sure. And so like, I don't want to talk about all the things I could do wrong today. I want to just kind of be around my friends for a little bit and have that. So, and them not being able to say to us, that doesn't work for me right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. And then we'll do a little loop.
Well, I was actually thinking about how this would look with kids because we always like talk about my me time before work or whatever, but like really everybody wakes up in the morning, so it's that's why this works so well, and kids do too, and their list would maybe look a little bit different from ours, but then in the sharing of this, if you did this in a classroom, we talk about bringing in student interests and their home life and learning more about them. And when we think about our MLs too, like how important that is, and going beyond just knowing that you have this kid with this ethnicity, so you're going to learn about their holidays or something. And that's very surface. I mean, it's important too, but that's
it's one part of it.
But our home, is where our culture happens, and so we can really think about one another in a deep way that we could take and bring that into.
Right.
Similar to what Ethan was just saying, I was thinking about how when our students do come, they've all had these different types of mornings, and using a process like this, I teach TK, so I have the luxury of we have a little bit more of a soft start of a morning to begin with, but allowing them as much agency as possible and talking about what makes their morning good, brainstorming together, you know, what works for them, and then trying to allow them to set up our room and implement it for the next day, so that they come in feeling some kind of design.
Yeah, like they have agency in their learning or how
their environment, setting it up so that they can walk in knowing what to expect and have something that they're ready to go to or join or relax in.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you.
Thank you. I also appreciated the last 20 minutes just to get to really know my partner, with whom we've never met before. But I think about how often in our classrooms, the communication with the students in a one-on-one setting traditionally, like schools don't allocate time for that to really get to know the student, speaking with them on a one-on-one and their families as well. I've had success to really get to know families by reversing current structures. So, for example, during conference week, instead of them coming to me, like I do home visits, right, and say, hey, I'll
Yeah.
come out
Yeah.
to share progress, but at the same time, really learn about you and your family and show that this is a partnership. So, really, how do we continue to build relationships, knowing that the school day structure in itself has still yet to be responsive to the current needs of our communities in education.
Yeah, no, I think being really mindful of being proactive about engaging with students and families and learning about them and how the student is in different settings too helps that like build that connection and I think build empathy, right? So the process that we do with schools districts really is like the first step is the biggest one, which is who are you designing for, right? Are you designing for students? Are you designing for the teachers that are at your site? Or is this a systems issue? And the empathy is very much emphasized because if you don't know the folks that you're designing for, what their needs are, how they can feel successful, then you're not, I guess, you're sort of guessing, right? You're sort of guessing at like what will be helpful versus asking them and then building something and getting feedback. So I was mentioning earlier that the design process is not linear. There's a lot of back and forth because once you get to a prototype, you want to maybe go back and do more empathy, right? You want to get that feedback and to be able to build on what you've done. Yeah. Any questions about this process? No, we're running like super behind. But I wanted to make sure that we had time to debrief this process. And also curious, I know there are different versions of design thinking too for those that have done it. You know, curious about some of the differences. Right, that's okay. Thank you so much.
I've seen design thinking implemented where students still wind up creating kind of their own projects or whatever, and they kind of the teacher facilitates and moves them through that process, but it's kind of for themselves. And I do think, like, if you really hold them to just designing for a client, like we can get so much more out of it, and that empathy piece goes all the way through it, and they have to think more critically. I think there's greater accountability
when it's like outside of them. Yeah. Other all right, so in the interest of time, what I wanted to do, we were going to do a stretch break, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the second partnership because this one was a multi-year partnership with 4 districts in the Bay Area, and we did design thinking cycles with all 3 levels of participants. So we asked the districts to bring teachers. We asked them to bring site admin as well as district admin so that we were really focusing on different levels of support and so they could talk to each other. And these districts were building supports for students who are designated as English learners. And what I originally wanted us to do is I printed out a chapter from a book where we talk about this project. And there are many case studies of the district, how one district administrator used design thinking to redesign her district, one school admin with teachers as the focus for the users, and then a classroom teacher where she shifted peer relationships and peer conversations to help her student designated as English learner feel more part of the community. So I know we only have about 15 minutes left, but I would love for you to dig into one of the levels. Oh, thank you. Yes, this is the printout. There's a digital copy. There's also some paper copies if you like to read on paper like I do and make notes. So maybe we'll take about maybe like 8 to 10 minutes if you want to pick a level to read, to skim, and then we'll come back together for the last like 5 minutes to do a quick discussion, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. So questions on this next 8 to 10 minutes? Okay, the pages are on the slide. There's the PDF pages and then the actual book pages. So take about 10 minutes and then we'll come back together to do a final discussion.
Oh my God.
In the interest of time, I'm going to give you guys about 1 more minute to finish up some of the reading, and would love to hear some reactions. You can make some connections and takeaways too. It's would love to hear some takeaways that you picked up from the article, or some connections, especially that you're making between the article and um, your school or your district. Yes.
I was reading the classroom one, and I noticed they use the design thinking process and focused in on one ML student, but as a result, they noticed that what they did impacted all of the students and it helped all of them. And so just like keeping that in mind, that what we do, like even if we're focusing on a certain group of students, it will impact and positively affect like everyone, because chances are all of the students need that extra what we have for them.
Yes, absolutely. I think designing for starting, because you have, we're starting the design for one group of students. It will very much affect a lot of the other students in terms of benefits.
I think my takeaway was that I just never thought of using the design thinking process for like things that I need to create, like never thought of it that way. And so I'm excited to implement that more in my process.
Awesome. That's great. I love that.
I was reading the systems change piece, and I was kind of skimming, but what I got from the gist is, like you're saying, we can use it on the district level. I think it was talking about the evaluation process as being, using that as a framework for the evaluation process. And then, we, all of us from LG are on like our CIA or curriculum instruction, kind of, and we plan PD. And I had some real, like, I think there's some real implications for helping how we plan PD and get the grade levels working together. And
That's super exciting. Yeah, great connection. Thank you. Other takeaways, thoughts, reactions? Yes, thank you.
I think the big piece, and I've talked about, but is the empathy piece, regardless if it's a student, a teacher, a school, that taking the time to get to know them is so important. I think sometimes we take a surface level, like I said, we think we know them or what their struggles are, and especially multilingual learners, like we may not have any idea why they're not doing things. So I think that's so important for all of us to remember as we do these things, that we really need to get to, like we did with our process, what the actual problem is and how can we help solve it.
Asking, going to the user and asking them, like, what is it? How are you feeling? What are you experiencing? And what are some things that you think we could do to help? So, was there maybe one more in the, did you want to, no? Okay. I thought I saw a hand. That's okay. All good. So yeah, I love these reflections. I think the connections around how might we use this process in your context, right? For yourself, for your system, for different levels of supports, I think is awesome. I hope you have enjoyed the design thinking activities. I know we didn't get to dig into the multilingual learner portion as much, but I'm happy to talk more about it. I will, here, I know if you have a few minutes, go ahead and share your thoughts by filling out the survey. If you're interested in collaborating or expanding on work with multilingual learners, would love to hear from you. My email is kuoannie@stanford.edu. Really enjoyed working with you on this design thinking activities. I hope some of them for your morning experience gets implemented in different ways. I also love that it brought you a lot of joy. So thank you for joining today, and I hope to hear from you soon.